Sean and RJ on the home of America's team, where we're about to be joined by former offensive lineman and Dallas Cowboy Ross Tucker from Odyssey. Odyssey calls presented by BetQL. Get access to data and insights the sportsbooks don't want you to see. Bet smarter and beat the books. Download the BetQL app or visit BetQL today and check out Ross's daily betting podcast, BetQL Daily, live every weekday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern on Odyssey.com. All right, Ross, after the first two picks, you'd feel the best about making a bet on what's happening in the draft next Thursday.
Yeah, I think the 49ers are going to take Mac Jones. I really do. I don't believe that they traded up to 3 without knowing who they wanted. Now, they're letting the process play out so that they can be thorough with it, and whoever they end up taking, they can say, look, we vetted all these guys. They had second pro days. We put them through everything. But I think it's Mac Jones. I'll tell you why. I can remember being at Washington training camp the first year the Shanahans were there. And I remember talking to Kyle Shanahan about what he did in Houston and the offense. They put up a lot of numbers when he was in Houston. And he looked at me and he's like, quarterback's really good. I said, yeah, I think Schaub's pretty good. He's like, no, he's really good. And we know that he loves Schaub. He told me he loved Schaub. We know he loved Cousins. And to be honest with you guys, that's who Mac Jones reminds me of. Like, he reminds me of Kirk Cousins or Matt Schaub, which probably doesn't excite a lot of other people to trade 3 first-round picks to go up to number 3 for. But I think Kyle Shanahan, it's funny, I had Sage Rosenfels, who played for Kyle in Houston, on the Ross Tucker podcast on Monday, and he said he thinks Kyle is so confident in his ability to get guys open with X's and O's, he just wants almost like a robot at quarterback. Like, he just wants whoever is the most accurate and can just consistently execute and throw the ball to who Kyle wants him to throw to. And Mac Jones is off the charts smart, completed 77% of his passes last year. I think it's Mac Jones. Now, maybe they'll surprise me and go Fields or Lance, but I think it's Mac Jones.
This is why it's so fascinating, because Kyle Shanahan appears to have all the power, but maybe it's too much power. If I'm the Niners ownership, Ross, I'm sitting him down and I'm saying, you thought Kirk Cousins was the answer here. If Kirk Cousins was like your gift to God at quarterback, maybe you're not this genius at evaluating and you're a genius at play calling. Do I settle for just the smart robot versus the upside athletic freak? That's what it's sounding like, because Kyle Shanahan is this genius whose offense is going to win versus better physical tools.
You know, it's interesting because his experience with an athletic freak show did not go real well, right? I mean, it was RG3. That first year went pretty well, and then after that, it went really poorly. So I think we're all a product of our experiences. And I would just tell you this about Cousins. I think in his heart of hearts, Shanahan thinks that if they had Cousins, they would have been in the playoffs the last 3 years and made deep runs. I mean, the 1 year Jimmy G stayed healthy, they went to the Super Bowl and probably should have won it. And he didn't even want Jimmy G. He wanted Cousins, but they didn't think they'd be able to get Cousins, and Jimmy G was available, and so they went that route. But I know that you were looking at it, Sean, like, okay, Cousins has proved he's not the guy. I think if you talk to Kyle Shanahan, he would believe that they would be one of the 2 or 3 best teams in the NFC year in, year out if he had Cousins, because Cousins is good and never gets hurt.
Forget what Kyle would do. If you were picking at 3, what would you do? How do you grade those quarterbacks after Wilson and Trevor?
Ooh, that's interesting. Now, the first thing I would tell you is I'm not like a quarterback guru, right? Like, I'm not going to be like, well, RJ, if you look at their footwork, if you really look, like, I played O-line, dude, right?
Your back was to him.
Yeah, I'll say I think Trey Lance is really, really intriguing. Really intriguing. And that's probably because I played FCS or whatever. But just think about that. Like, think about how good you have to be to play your redshirt freshman year at North Dakota State, and you're a top 10 pick. I mean, he must be good. Really, really good. And Justin Fields just scares me a little bit. Like, as gifted as he is, if you watch the Indiana game and watch Northwestern game, I remember distinctly thinking, like, what are you doing, dude? You know, like, first of all, throw the ball away. I mean, Ohio State's offensive line was unbelievable, and he was taking sacks he shouldn't. So he was holding on to the ball, and then he threw some terrible picks. And it's a really weird thing, right, where I think if he opted out of this year, he would have been the number 2 pick. But he came back, and the more you play, the more you allow people to throw different defenses at you and to try different things against you and to potentially confuse you. And that's what happened against Indiana Northwestern. And I think some teams are like, well, what's going to happen when he's in our offense, which is more complicated, and going against defenses that are throwing a lot more at him than the defenses do in college? I think that's the concern.
What, Choppy?
I gotta love it because he passed up. He's an Ivy League guy. He passed up a perfect opportunity to say I was Ivy League, but he said I was FCS, and I gotta respect that because Ivy League Princeton guys love to throw in your face that they're Ivy League, and you didn't do that. I appreciate that.
Hey, so I gotta tell you guys 2 quick stories about that, right? So number one, you guys always say that, but the reality is. Somewhere, you've got a little bit of an inferiority complex. It's always you guys that bring it up.
Yeah.
I never bring it up. But every time, dude, I'm telling you, half the time I do an interview, and by the way, I'm from Reading, Pennsylvania, which is like a steel town. All I want to do is play football at Penn State. They didn't want me. I got into Harvard and Princeton because of football, and my dad's like, you're going to one of them. That's how it went down, okay? So I always think it's funny because when I do these radio hits, it's usually the guy that's like, oh, he's a Princeton guy. He's a Princeton guy. Yeah. But I got to tell you guys a story. Okay, so I live in like the Hershey-Harrisburg area. It's the state capital of Pennsylvania now. And I don't buy clothes. I don't buy anything. But every time I broadcast a Princeton game or because I'm like a whatever alum, they send me all kinds of like dry fit T-shirts, long-sleeve T-shirts, hoodies, shorts, whatever, right? So my daughters, the last few years, going to preschool, whatever, almost every day of my life, I wear Princeton stuff. Just because that's like the comfortable, dry-fit, Under Armour, whatever, stuff that they sent me for free. So that's what I wear. But I'm telling you guys, by like the 3rd week of preschool pickups, I always see the other dads looking at me like, look at this douche. Look at this guy. I'm wearing the Princeton stuff every day. You know what I mean? Like, look at this guy over here. You got to wear the Princeton stuff every day. Meanwhile, I'm like the least Princeton guy ever. I just said something on the radio you're probably not supposed to say. And I still wear the Princeton stuff every day, which is hilarious.
Ross Tucker, our Super Bowl party buddy every year except for COVID years here on 105.3 The Fan. All right, let's get to the Cowboys at 10 now. I've been fighting off all the Kyle Pitts fanatics. The corner is what all the other analysts are saying they definitely need, that it needs to be Patrick Surtain. I'm intrigued by the linemen. If Slater drops down, I don't think Sewell will. That's your area of expertise. What have you been hearing, and where do you think the Cowboys should go at 10?
Yeah, so Kyle Pitts is unbelievable. That's not going to happen. He's going to be the 4th or 5th pick in the draft. And the Cowboys are not going to pay what it takes to move up there. So everybody listening, you can stop calling in about that. You're wasting your time. Not happening. He's going 4th to Atlanta, maybe 5th to Cincinnati. I mean, he's going 4 or 5. He's an unbelievable football player. So, and that's not even what you guys need, okay? I think it's corner. I don't think it's offensive line, but I think that depends a little bit on how they feel about all their younger guys. Like, you guys have to tell me how they feel about Tyler Biadasz Connor McGovern, Connor Williams. Like, if they don't like any of those guys, okay, then maybe they would take a Slater or a Vera Tucker, someone that could be tackle, but probably a guard. They're basically Zach Martin types. I'm not saying they're Zach Martin. I don't think anybody is. But they can play tackle, but they're probably best suited to guard. I don't think that happens either, though. I really do think that they're going to take a corner. I think the Dallas Cowboys are going to be able to get, at 10, the best defensive player in the draft, and really the best player, or at least the first defensive player off the board in the draft, and the best player at their biggest position of need, which is cornerback. Now, I'm going to throw one more out there. I don't think they will do this, but I think they should strongly consider Micah Parsons from Penn State. He is an unbelievable difference-making player, and I think there are very real concerns with both Van Der Esch and Jalen Smith from a health standpoint, and I would say Smith from a production standpoint. But you guys have seen when Van Der Esch and Smith were healthy and flying around, what a difference that makes. That's Micah Parsons like on steroids. Like, he's an unbelievable player. And I think if the Cowboys are honest with themselves, what are the odds that both Smith and Van Der Esch are healthy all year and play well? Probably not real good. So I don't think they'll do it. There's some evidently some red character, some character flags with Parsons, but that would be the one kind of wild card I'll throw into the mix for Dallas.
Ross,
I'm flummoxed. I'm sorry, Sean. I'm flustered.
He doesn't believe he believes that linebackers are the running backs of defense, that they do not matter, and that you should not and cannot take one that early in the draft. Response.
Hold on a second. You guys watch the Dallas Cowboys play football, right?
Yes.
You've seen the difference in the defense when Van Der Esch and Jalen Smith are healthy and playing well,
sure,
versus when they're not healthy or not out there or not playing well. They make a big difference. I mean, how about the Bucs, Levante David and Devin White in the playoffs? Those guys. Now, listen, the Eagles, I do the Eagles preseason games. They feel the same way. Eagles would never take a linebacker in the first round. But there are other teams like the Bucs that feel differently, and they just won the Super Bowl. And Devin White was a big reason why, and they took him at 5.
Is there any player that you think is going to go higher than they should, that the Cowboys may have to move for? Maybe they have to move up for because a player's going to get picked higher than they have to, an overrated player. The Cowboys have to move back. Is there somebody that's going to be in that spot that you think is going to go way higher than they actually should go?
Well, look, I mean, I think there's a chance that there's 5 quarterbacks go off the board by 8. So I do think that is a possibility, and I think you could probably argue that several of those quarterbacks are kind of being pushed up the board. Mm-hmm. In terms of as it relates to the Cowboys, I think there's a chance that there are some teams ahead of them that could take Surtain. I think, or J.C. Horn from South Carolina. I don't envision it going this way, but theoretically, Surtain could go 8 to Carolina. They need a corner. And Denver could take J.C. Horn at 9. And then the Cowboys are just kind of left holding holding the bag, trying to figure out what they want to do there. Because then, if they agree with you and they don't think linebackers are worth it, okay. If, they're not going to take another receiver, that would be worst case scenario for the Cowboys. They'd probably be scrambling to trade back at that point, or they would just take like Rashawn Slater and just say, okay, let's make sure we're covered on the O-line.
Ross, we love it as always. Thank you for the time and making us feel inferior about our educations as always, man. Have a great one.
Listen, it's not my fault that I went to the number 1 ranked school in the country, okay? So please don't blame me for that.
Love you, Ross. Thank you, man. That was Odyssey. NFL insider Ross Tucker. Insider calls presented by BetQL. BetQL here to help us all make better bets through real proven analytics. Bet smarter and beat the books. Download the BetQL app or visit BetQL.com today and check out Ross's daily betting podcast, BetQL Daily, live every weekday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern on Odyssey.com.
Sometimes a single click on the internet can change your life forever. I'm Elle Fanning, and welcome to One Click, a documentary podcast series that investigates a lethal diet drug that has managed to reappear time and again with a trail of death behind it. Listen and follow One Click, a presentation of C13 Originals, a Cadence 13 studio, in association with Vespucci and Llewellyn Pictures. Available now on Odyssey, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
For the ones who know safety isn't a catchphrase, it's a culture. And the ones who help make sure everyone makes it home safe. For the safety-minded who watch everyone's backs, Grainger offers supplies and solutions for every industry, as well as safety assessments and training to keep your facilities safe and your people safer. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.